I believe that treason is a crime and therefore must be made odious. Frankly, traitors must be impoverished. They not only deserve to suffer the strictest and meanest punishment, but their social power must be destroyed. The planters who control the southern states are in fact nothing but stuck-up aristocrats who care little for the people of the South. They spend their days toiling the land, and all of this, of course, with little or no slaves. And yet, the aristocrats sit and live rich and fancy with their slaves doing all the work. It is not the South whom these men represent when they succeeded. They only represented themselves. I want to support the uncomforted and the underrepresented yeomen of the South. And I think that those Confederates who fought the war should be supported. I will be providing amnesty for the individuals who fought in the war. They will receive taxable properties of decent value so that they can successfully rebuild and establish profits. This subsistence, of course, will only be provided to those Confederates who were not considered rich, to those who did not receive substantial amounts of notoriety. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. I join you here from an undisclosed location where a real shady deal indeed is in the works. In that room behind me are Republican and Democratic representatives working on some sort of a deal that has not yet been disclosed to the public. We'll let you know more information as we know it. Looks like one of the delegates. Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
Could you answer a few questions about what's going on in there?
I'm sorry, but that's a private business of the United States government, and nobody outside that room can know the workings of the deal until it's done.
I understand, but could you answer a few questions? Small interview, maybe?
Well, I suppose I could spend a few minutes with the press.
What was going on in there?
Well, as we all know, the presidential election of 1876 was a bit disputed, to put it kindly. Tilden, the party's savior, won most southern states and a couple northern states, only needing to win one of the last three states, Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana, to win the presidential election. However, there was a voting discrepancy in the states, and as a result, they couldn't get the results. So, for some reason, and I don't know how this happened, I probably never will, the states determined that Hayes was the winner, meaning he would win the presidential election, even though Tilden clearly won the popular vote. In the interest of maintaining democratic ideals that our country stands for, my fellow Democrats and I stood up and kindly requested a recount. When our simple request was denied, we decided we would take our argument to Washington. Despite the validity of our argument, the people around us were crying that we were going to start another civil war, an unfounded conclusion that I don't know how they drew. But despite Tilden's victory in a popular vote, and our numerous other points, they determined that Hayes was the winner and would be the president of our country. How could we Democrats be expected to believe that a man who won his presidency largely on scandal and cheat would lead our great nation by the values that we wanted to be led by? I know we don't want it, our founding fathers wouldn't want it, and there's no way that the people want it. And we Democrats, for the aforementioned reasons, decided we couldn't stay in a government like that. So both sides decided to hash it out in a compromise, and here we are, I guess.
So you're compromising. What on exactly?
We Democrats, in the interest of keeping the liberties of peace and posterity within our country, graciously agreed to make a compromise with those Republican cheats. We would, being the amiable people we are, look the other way while they ushered that cheap Hayes into office. Now, in return, the North would take those pesky soldiers that had been lingering around the South out. They would appoint Democrats to the cabinet of the president. They would start a program that would industrialize the South, and they would appoint more Democrats to patronage positions in the South. It sounded like a fair compromise to us, so here we are.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And, well, an interesting development indeed. Back to you guys. Thanks, you guys. As many may not be aware, it has been 9 years since the 14th Amendment was first passed, redefining the definition of citizenship in the United States. As many remember, this great change in the Constitution was a response to the violence and the black code system established right here in the South. This amendment is seen as a real turning point for many freed blacks. But are they really on their way to being considered equal to many whites? Here's what some people had to say on the matter.
I don't care if blacks are becoming doctors or lawyers, they're still inferior than I am.
I don't really see a difference. When I see a black person, it's like seeing a white person.
Well, the 14th Amendment has made life so much easier. While I know other people still don't like me, the fact that I have the support of the government makes it easier for me to go about my daily life. It makes it easier for my children to aspire to be doctors and lawyers.
I understand why the amendment was passed, but after all this time, I still don't see blacks becoming an important part of society.
Thanks, you guys. Shelby here again. I'm still out talking to people about the major changes that have happened within only a decade here in the South. It may sound shocking, but it looks like we may have some future leaders with some very dark skin. If all the news of those carpetbaggers weren't enough with their constant effort to rebuild society, now there's been talk about blacks leading our communities. Never in a million years did I ever think this would happen, but a study shows that some freed slaves are on their way to higher levels of education and positions of leadership, such as local, state, national offices. The talk of such craziness is really unbelievable, but enough of what I think. Here's what some people of the good old South have to say about it.
They're running for office now? What's the world coming to?
They can't run for office. That'd be like letting a pig run.
I think the people that are running for office are so inspiring.
I don't understand. How are these people, black people, going to run for office when they aren't even literate? I mean, if you're going to be in office, you should be at least able to read or write. And when they're in office, all they're going to do is do favors for the other kin and family that they have. You know that they're not going to do anything important. They think it's a game. They think life is a game. They're rude, disrespectful. Already they're not hardworking. You look everywhere in the street, you see black people working. You want someone in office like that? That's not going to work. You need hard-working Americans, white-collar class, blue-collar class, just someone who's actually working out there. There's so much anger inside that the idea of a black person running for office, I mean, they're so ignorant. They don't know. Ignorance is bliss for them, you know? They don't know right from wrong. They don't know morals. They don't even know the Constitution. If you want them to run for office, it just wouldn't work.